Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Ziya on another episode of Around the Fire with Momo, and we are going to discuss some of the latest tech updates on Bitcoin, the discussions on the mailing list, and we are going to talk about the very famous up return. We're going to touch upon that. We have discussed it in more depth on the previous episode that I had with Ziya. And today we are going to talk about other things too. Other things are, believe it or not, are going on in Bitcoin world. Hello, Zia.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Had my first coffee after so many days because of my because I was really tired after my fiat mining, and now my eyes are completely open. So ready to hear from you what you've got from for us.
Yeah, so I've seen a cool project actually, and so I just took a look at it, and it's by this cool, I think she's Bitcoin Core contributor or not. I'm not sure. I cannot find her.
Do you
Yeah,
want me to share the
by the
screen?
Bitcoin. E- Yeah, you can share the screen probably. I'm trying to
Yeah.
find who is building this website. So it's called TLDR about Bitcoin. So it's tldr.bitcoinsearch.xyz. That's the link, which is not a cool link, but yeah. So I'm gonna copy it and paste it here so you could see how it looks like. Does it show? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it does.
tldr.bitcoinsearch.xyz, something like
I'm gonna
this.
include the link down below so
Yeah, for sure.
you can have it.
And it's a cool project because, like, yeah. So what I do, just a little bit background about this thing. So I've been a part of the Bitcoin dev mailing list for a real long time now, probably at least 5 or 6 years. Yeah, it was on actually Linux forums. What do they call them? Linux Wiki or Linux communities, something like that. It was there before, and then now it's on Google work groups, and it's the place that most of the technical discussions about Bitcoin start in, and it's like one of the coolest places to take a look at the technicalities about Bitcoin if you're interested in such a thing. So I also do advise you guys to go register there, take a look at it, and see all the discussions there. So what I do most of the times. So a friend asked me once that, "What do you do to get some sleep? Like when you want to sleep, what do you do? Like when you check your phone?" I was like, "Yeah, I go on the Bitcoin dev mailing list because the topics are either too complicated to understand, so they actually make me tired, and I would want to go to sleep, or too useful, so I would learn from them and then get tired and go to sleep." So that's one of the things that I do, and that's like the Bitcoin dev mailing list. So what is TLDR? I think it's like an automated kind of a way to actually do this, like Bitcoin dev mailing list summaries and explanations with like AI. And it's cool because what it has is like it makes it much easier to navigate the posts, because it's like very difficult to navigate the posts and follow all the conversations and the mailing list itself. So just to so you would have actually you would have an idea of how it looks like. I could probably open one of the yeah, so you can see this is how it looks like, linked to raw posts. So you can see this is how it looks like on the dev mailing list, and it is pretty intimidating. So I cannot understand what's going on here. What is this like? And then it's like it's very confusing how it works. So it just makes it much easier to look at it like this, and then it gives some AI summaries for the discussions. So this is like the famous discussion that still I call it like sparked some shenanigans about like upgrading Bitcoin and like took too much of an attention, which is the upper turn shenanigans, which we'll take a look if there's an update here. So I'm not really sure. So let's use it and let's see what's going on in this space. So one of the last things here is like one of them is like graft leaf, which I don't know anything about, but it seems like it's some kind of a method or some kind of a new proposal to just enhance a little bit more on covenants or something like that. So probably this is a topic for another time. But yeah, the active discussions. So the relax up return one. There's unbreaking Testnet4, looks cool. The tragic tale of BIP30. This is like 12 replies on the Bitcoin dev mailing list. There's this Zero-Conf apps in immediate danger by Anthony Towns, which is like a discussion that Anthony Town started or probably just posted because there's no discussion, it's just only one post, which is kind of cool. So let's talk about some of these, and also the CTV and CSFS, which is the proposed covenant upgrade, which is gaining more popularity among others. This one is also a very active discussion with like 60 replies. There's a few things here. So let's just take a look at the up return and what's going on. So the last thing we see is a post by Antoine. I don't know how to pronounce the
Antoine
last
Ponsa.
name.
Ponsa.
Honsa. Okay. Here's Antoine. He had, so this is like AI generated summary. So it seems that Antoine made some kind of a post on Delving Bitcoin, which is a forum which is pretty similar to that, to what pretty similar to the mailing list for discussions in a forum format. So there's a forum, and I think this is about the forum, right, or not? I'm not entirely sure. So there's a forum post that is somehow. So sorry, this is like the earliest one. I think this is from April, so I got it wrong. So this one's from 1814. So
Again from Anton.
they should probably just move it, yeah, sort it the other way. So in Delving Bitcoin is also a cool community and forum that you could learn a lot about Bitcoin, and like there's mostly like technical, economical, and philosophical topics about Bitcoin. So Antoine, what he did is like he kind of summarized everything. So you can see it like this. It looks cool. So summarized everything in all the discussions, and that's like kind of cool because there was a lot of discussions in this space, and this is good to have a summary of everything that went on in the space. So he just did this, and that's cool. You could take a look at the whole thing, and you should probably verify for yourself as well, because you should not just trust to one person's perspective, but this is a very good place to start reading about it. And this is like one of the last updates on this discussion. There's a summary of all the discussions in one place, and all the points of view, all the like downsides, all the, I don't know, advantages, the cons, the pros, everything are listed here. So this was one of the cool things that I saw here. And if we go to the other topics because like we discussed up return before, so we're not going to go too much into it. There's a topic called unbreaking testnet 4. That's a very catchy or actually eye-catching title. So we have testnet 4. Testnet 4, for those who don't know about like testnets, it's like test networks that are replicating the Bitcoin network itself and how it works, but the coins there do not have any value and they are intended for testnet purposes, hence the name testnet. So it's a test network for testing purposes for like researchers, developers, and also curious people who want to just do some transactions and learn a little bit more about how Bitcoin works. So why is it called Testnet 4? Because this is the fourth iteration of Testnet, at least the fourth iteration of Testnet that we're using right now. Or actually, we started kind of like now because there was like other testnets before and they were shut down because in some of the cases the coins for testnets started being traded and they gained like popularity, and then people decided, so let's just kill this network and let's not make it like something that would gain economic value, because that's not a good place to do testing on. So I think that happened for testnet 2, probably. I'm not sure, or maybe the first testnet. Then there was testnet 3, which we were using for a really long time. But then there were a lot of problems in testnet 3, including spam, including all sorts of parameter changes, like somebody just connects a full-fledged miner to the network and just starts mining all the blocks for the difficulty difficulty epoch in a few minutes, and then just makes the whole network stuck and just raises the difficulty and then just disconnects. And there were people messing around with the testnet because it's not worth it to protect it, so nobody's mining there. So there's very few hash power there. So that made it very difficult for developers who relied on testnet for testing purposes to actually be able to use it. So that was like kind of difficult to start using it. So I do remember such things happen actually. So there were times that somebody just connected a miner there and they just made the difficulty so high and then disconnected the miner, and then no new blocks were being generated because the difficulty is now much higher than what it was and much higher than the hash rate provided by the users on the testnet network. So it was like stuck for days, or probably you couldn't like do the testing that you needed on testnet 3. And there were all sorts of other stuff happening on there. There were spam, there were like I think attacks on it. So because like it's a testing ground, nobody cares about it, so nobody protects it, so there would be a lot of attacks on it. So one thing that some of the developers thought of was the launch of something called Signet, which Signet now kind of doesn't require mining, but it requires signatures from developers. So it's like some kind of a, probably we could call it some kind of a proof of stake network. But instead of like hash power, we rely on a few people that we trust and are developers to run this network for other developers to be able to just start using it. And it's like it's been like probably the one of the best ones up to this moment. Like I know that this is like a controlled environment. It works fine. It's all good because it requires only few people who don't have any motive to just mess around with the Signet. So that's also cool. But there were there wasn't some motivation actually for launching a new testnet, which was like testnet 4. And I think it launched a year ago. And now what this topic is about is that people are stuck with developing or how to develop testnet 4. So at first they wanted to have a controlled environment, but at the same time, so it's just described very good here, somewhere here. So you want to have something that is also both controlled, so it's balancing the characteristics of a permissionless network, because you need it to look like Bitcoin, you need it to act like Bitcoin, because like that's the problem with Signet, because it's not completely like Bitcoin, so it's not the best test environment. So you want it to act like Bitcoin, to have all the characteristics of a permissionless network, and everything, but at the same time you need to be able to control it, because if you don't control the testing environment, it just gets messy, and it's not possible to test whatever you want to test on the network. And that's like some kind of a law. That's what they call it. It's the dichotomy. This dichotomy had led to testnet for not fulfilling its intended objective, as it is neither accurately simulates the operational conditions of the Bitcoin mainnet, nor effectively provides developers with an easy platform for mining blocks on personal devices. So it's like it's stuck between these two. It wants to be a permissionless network, but it also wants to have some control, so it won't be messed up. So it's rather confusing, and they're discussing how to develop it so it would make sense, or actually how to make it, like change it in a way that would make sense to have like the best testing environment. And that's actually a really cool and interesting topic that I think it's fascinating to have like a place on to think about these kind of stuff. So, Momo, do you have any like questions about this? Like,
About testnet in general, I have some questions. It was several years ago when Samurai was still around, and I was too afraid to use some real coins to practice mixing. So I used some testnet coins, and it wasn't working first because it was testnet. And I remember I asked on your group, and you said that, yeah, it's not working. You're not getting any traction because it's on testnet. Though it worked eventually, as you said, it took some time for it to work. Is testnet 4 exactly like Bitcoin? And can we? I know with respect to mining, it has different rules, but if you want to do Lightning experiments, does it matter which testnet you choose?
so, well, it does kind of matter, because, like, if you want to use like Signet, that's not completely the same thing, and it does also matter from an adaptability perspective, because, like, you may want to test stuff on, like, let's say this software, and that software only supports Testnet 3 for testing, and then another software may only support Testnet 4, another one may support only Signet. So these are not cross compatible with each other, right? So if a user just wants to test a few stuff, like just like you, a user who was curious to learn a little bit more about like the processes and everything, so they may have like testnet 3 coins, but they may not work on Signet or testnet 4 or others. And then there's not much traction on testnets, and there's not much transactions on the testnets. So that's also a problem. Like, let's say you wanted to, actually, I do remember that you wanted to test out Whirlpool for mixing. So Whirlpool didn't have like enough participants in testnet, because like nobody cared about like doing tests, like doing mixing, but on testnet, like why would people want to do that? Like there would be probably very few people who want to just learn a few stuff, but there won't be like serious demand, so there won't be enough liquidity to do the mixing. Then that's the problem we actually face, because there's not much traction, there's not much transactions on it. So yeah, it does matter which testnet to use, and it does matter from mostly research and like real development testing purposes. Because like now, I think in testnet 4 they remove some like difficulty and mining rules and things like that. And I think on testnet 3 we could check that actually. So testnet 3 is like much younger than the Bitcoin network itself, right? But so testnet 3, the latest blocks for testnet 3 are 4,360,058. 4 million. The mainnet blocks are 896,000. So that's like 5, 6 times more amount, like number of blocks. So you see, like there's like blocks being produced just now, just now, just now. Like this is not good representation. So we had probably, I don't know, 30, 40 blocks. Like there's so many blocks that were produced all at the same time. So this is not a good representation for how the Bitcoin network actually works. So this is completely different. It's completely obvious that it is different. So this doesn't end actually. Like maybe like a few hundred blocks were mined at the same time. So you can see what's the problem here. Like this is not how the Bitcoin network works. So now we get to 1 minute ago, right? So that's like 732, and then if we go to the first one, how many blocks is that? It's like 300 blocks or something. So if I'm
Just
not
now.
wrong,
Mm.
yeah, just 300 blocks in the last minute, and probably 300 other blocks. And you can see 300% here increase in hash rate.
Maybe it
Average
is
block time
done
is two
by,
minutes.
yeah, it's done probably by one of those jokers who just hooks up a real miner to the network to just
Yeah,
increase the
probably.
difficulty and make the life of other developers difficult.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so you can see that like how this thing is like kind of messy. Like you cannot expect real world scenarios of testing Bitcoin on this network. Like let's say if you want to test out, actually there's also a completely individual, independent kind of a testnet that you could run, which is like your own test network for yourself. That is called reg test, which is like you're on your own node in reg test mode, and then you connect any software you want to it, and you mine starting the actually the first blocks. So it's like you're gonna mine from the day zero on Bitcoin. So that's how it works, like for reg test. That's also a cool way to do some tests, but that's also not a completely similar environment to how Bitcoin actually works. It doesn't like simulate the whole Bitcoin network thing. So I could see why some people wouldn't like to test using that. So that's
And
also actually a very
before we
interesting
go
topic.
forward,
Yeah.
I noticed that the fees on the mainnet have gone up. Do you know what has happened? It wasn't like this yesterday. It was over
On the
20
mainnet.
on the mainnet, yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's way higher.
Yeah, yesterday it was 3, 4.
Is this the one? No. Oh my God. How many transactions with data are there on the network? This is kind of stupid.
They will be hopefully soon be priced out. Yeah,
Yeah, these
let's
are
go
all up return.
on.
That's interesting. And also sig hash anyone can pay. Wow. Yeah. So let's go to the next topic, and Let's go to the tragic tale of BIP 30. And this is also a very, very cool concept and very cool, actually, discussion that anyone interested in the whole Bitcoin consensus thing, like the blockchains and the actually consensus algorithms and how they work and how they actually what we need to consider doing when we want to do a soft fork and all sorts of stuff like that. I would really actually suggest them that they would follow on this topic. So the tragic tale of BIP 30. There's a discussion that was started by Ruben Thompson. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so let's go with Ruben. It started by Ruben on April 27th. And what the topic is that Ruben actually, I think he's developing or he has something to do with Swift Sync, which is a method among other methods, one of the methods actually, to do to download the whole blockchain and sync the node. The other methods being like U3XO and also possibly in the future some other zero knowledge proof systems like Zero Sync. There's also Zero Sync, which is being developed or already developed. I'm not sure about that, which are very promising tech, all of them. Like they make the life of a person who is, let's say, is at least downloading and trying to run Bitcoin, a Bitcoin node for the first time, much easier, and it won't need like to do a lot of validating, a lot of like processing, and it won't need as much resources, as much computing resources at least as before, or maybe even like bandwidth resources. So it's a very cool, like it's very cool tech that I would love to see in the future to being utilized, and I'm going to be a user for that. So I would love to see that. So the discussion being that Ruben suggested that, well, we need to talk about BIP 30 and what is BIP 30. BIP 30 is something for I don't know. I think I think they were implemented somewhere around not 2013. I think they were before 2013. I'm not
I
sure.
think 13. I think I heard something about it today.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
okay, up until okay, right.
yeah, it's Web 30. What was the time? So it is kind of important. So I'm not sure when it was introduced. Probably yeah, 2012, early 2012. So by Peter. Yeah, so that's the thing. So BIP 30 is a cool thing. It's not cool actually. It has a cool story. So that's the reason that there's a discussion. It's not a cool thing. It's like it's messy and it's like making few some problems and making it a little bit troublesome for users to for developers to do some development on these like protocols that I talked about, like Swift Sync, Zero Sync, others. I don't know, U3XO. So there's this number, right? So no, that's the block height. Let me find the first block number, which is written somewhere around here. I just saw it. Yeah, this is the block. So let's go and take a look at it. So you would be kind of surprised. What's this?
91,722.
Yeah, this is the block. So the interesting thing about this block and also a few other blocks, I think there's 4 blocks, and these 4 blocks are are identical to like in groups of two. So this block is identical to another block, which if we take this public key and just check for it, we could probably see them. I'm not sure why it's not working. So I probably will put some, yeah, I cannot copy it. Why is that? That's how it works.
At the
Yeah,
top, I
I'm
think
gonna
that
I'm gonna copy it from here. Yeah. If I search the address, yeah, it doesn't show it like how it should be showing it, probably. But the thing is that there's two blocks with the same hash. So this is like the hash for the block. I think it's the block number is here. This is the block. Yeah, there are two blocks, or actually, I think two transactions with the same hash, which are this transaction and another transaction, and then also two other transactions in the network. And that's kind of dangerous, like to have the same block hash for two, actually the same transaction has hash for two different transactions. That would make like some kind of a problem in the network, because now the network cannot verify, validate, or like identify which of the transactions are these. Like this needs to be included in the input of the next transaction, and if this user spends this money, there will be a problem. Like it like at that time, not right now, but at that time, it would have caused a complete chain split, and like it would have like destroyed the network. So there's like two identical bitcoins on the network, not two actually. There would be like 100 identical bitcoins on the network that are complete replicas of each other, because they have the same attributes, the same receiver, the same like amount and everything. And at that time, we didn't include a lot of like random metadata to hash it and produce different transaction IDs. I'm not sure that if I'm explaining it in the best way. So the transaction ID is, you could consider it as like a hash of the whole content of the transaction. So it just goes through SHA 256 and just produces this actually string of letters and characters, so, and numbers. So this string gotta be unique. You shouldn't have like two unique, like two identical strings somewhere in the Bitcoin network, because it will like be a duplicate kind of a thing, and then there's going to be a problem, because these are not like, the Bitcoins will not be unique. And then that's going to be a very important problem, and it happened a few times in the back in the day, when there was no external random data in the in the input of this hash function. So that's what caused the problem. And if the user spent those coins at that time, it would have like made a terrible problem at that time. So then what happened? Peter will find out about it, as we saw here in this BIP 30. He found out about it. He said that this is very bad and it is very dangerous. It could ruin the whole network if this user just spends that money. So let's making them unspendable. Let's make them unspendable. So we kind of burned the guy's Bitcoin at that time, so which is not a good thing. Sorry, like you lost probably 50 Bitcoin at least, which is not a small number. That's bad. I don't know if they still have the private key to these coins or what, but they lost these amount of Bitcoin because they are unspendable now. So they kept one copy of the Bitcoin that they had, and the other one is unspendable. So they only have 50 Bitcoin instead of 100. So we fixed that by BIP 30, we included a rule in the consensus rules that you should always check if these transactions are not being spent and they are like unspendable. So this has made the network kind of like the whole syncing process for nodes kind of clunky, and it made it kind of yeah, difficult to do all sorts of optimizations and like all sorts of like flexibility in development for doing this syncing process, because you always need to check for this BIP30 thing. And now there's talks of like we should probably, or we could probably remove the whole thing. And what we could do, probably like let's discuss it. This is what this thing is about. Let's discuss. Let's find a way to remove this thing so it would become efficient again. So right now it's BIP30's UTXO set. So the inefficiency of BIP30's UTXO set is check has prompted suggestions for a system that caches Coinbase transaction IDs to prevent duplicates, potentially allowing for the complete sunset of BIP30. So some of people are suggesting new ways that we could implement the same result we wanted from BIP30, but now achieve like efficiency with like new methods of like verifying the whole thing, the whole blockchain. Yeah, so it's like it says this reflects the ongoing pursuit of optimizing and securing the Bitcoin protocol against significant threats while maintaining its functionality and resilience. This is ChatGPT talking, so you see, like, yeah, it's kind of obvious. So it's like a summary from the whole thread. So, but yeah, so that's the whole thing. So it is kind of interesting that a mess was caused because we didn't like Satoshi didn't anticipate that in like the new blocks should include the previous block to them in the block hash or transaction ID of like I don't know the of the Coinbase transaction or something like that. And because he didn't include such a thing, then two identical Bitcoins could be generated at the same time. And then spending two identical Bitcoins would cause a complete system failure. And then we had to implement some kind of a checkpoint called BIP30 to always, like we've been always checking since 2012-13 up to this moment, still doing that. The nodes always are checking if those transactions are not spendable, are not spent. So to stop those transactions from messing the whole system. So that's not the best way to do it. Probably it was like an easy fix, but now there's problems arising from how to develop further and like optimize and make it more efficient. So that's the thing. So that's the whole thing with the tragic tale of 30. I'm really sorry if I didn't explain it correctly. It's kind of difficult to explain it. Probably I should have had like a few diagrams and like screenshots to make it like easier to understand.
I really get the tragedy of it, losing 50 bitcoins just because the attributes are the same, and then the transaction ID ends up being the same. It's really painful.
Yeah. So that's actually, yeah. So this is probably, you could see it here in the consensus rules. This is one of the something, I don't know. Get block hash this. This is one of the block hashes, which is this block and then another block. I think it's not these only two. I think there were more. Like there were 4 blocks, I think. I'm not entirely sure. So these are the 2 blocks that have like identical. Yeah, these are
Transaction
the,
IDs
yeah.
and
We could probably just take a look if we want right now. So it's this one. What does it have? Let's compare them side by side. Let me open the other one too. Just compare them. It's possible that a new explorers will change a few stuff, so it won't break their own systems probably. And it is possible that we're taking a look at the incorrect place, because these may be the only ones that are supposed to be spendable or not spendable. I'm not entirely sure. So we shouldn't start with 0x because that's not Ethereum. Probably I had to remove a few. Oh yeah, it is 91842. There's 91888. 842. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure right now, but I had like checked the transactions before, and there are actually transactions identical to each other in the Bitcoin network. So yeah, let's go to the next topic.
Let's go.
Yeah, so what's the next one? There's Zero-Conf apps in immediate danger. Oh my God, a lot of danger. So, what's happening here? Opt-in full RBF, Zero-Conf apps in immediate danger, which is Zero-Conf stands for zero confirmation. Opt-in full RBF. So this is about like having RBF on transactions enabled by nodes and everything. And Anthony Towns actually discusses here that since like which version was that? I think since 2022 or something, or since late 2024, we have. Let me just open the raw post itself so and see this. And what he's talking about is like, oh wow, this is somewhere. So I'm lost now. I'm lost now. It is so big of a thread. Let's just check the raw post again.
I remember the discussion was about 2 years ago. So, and Sergey, I think, is from Bitrefill. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, cool guy. And the thing is that what's happening now is like since version 28, we have mempool full RBF for by default since 2028. And since we have like 30-40% of the network on version 28, now most like the whole network kind of like most of the network somehow we could expect that can do RBF and can replace transactions that are not yet confirmed. So zero confirmed. So if you guys didn't know that, back in the day, it was possible to like do small purchases of like anything, pay with Bitcoin, let's say for a coffee or something, and you didn't have to wait for 10 minutes for the transaction to be confirmed because like you weren't able, although it was not confirmed, you weren't able to change that transaction that was sent to the whole network. Still not confirmed, it's zero confirmation. It could be like reorged or something, but there was a very, very small chance of something happening like that. And like people were accepting transactions that didn't have like a confirmation or something. So zero confirmation transactions were accepted at that time. But then what happened is that we wanted a way to be able, like with the rise of fees, we wanted a way to be able to adjust the fee after we send the transaction to the network, because like you could set a low fee rate for your transaction, then the transaction would be stuck in the mempool for a really long time until it gets mined. And if you are in a hurry, you would love to have an option to take that transaction back, increase the fee and then send it back to the network. So that's also a very good and functional user, actually a very good user experience for to be able to increase the fee. So your transaction would be mined sooner and confirmed in case you're in a hurry. So then what's the problem? The problem is that using something like RBF, you could probably replace transactions. Like you could replace a transaction and change the destination to, and the whole network now accepts it if it's not confirmed, right? So if it's a zero confirmation transaction, then that's how it is. So now merchants who are accepting Bitcoin and who were accepting actually any, so that's why the title Bitcoin, what was it? Bitcoin apps, yes, zero
Zero-Conf
confirm
apps in
apps
danger.
in immediate danger. So any apps who accept zero confirmation are in danger because like now users can easily, so in like if you deliver the goods or the items to the customer, to the client, and they pay and their transaction is not still confirmed and you deliver to them, then you are in danger of your transaction being replaced and not being confirmed. So the merchants are in a disadvantage and probably at risk of their pending transactions becoming canceled. So that's something that this actually this discussion is delving into. And it's also interesting discussion. I would love to see any ideas. Like there's a few stats. There's like you can see people are talking about like 30-40% of the network is adopting this version, which is like a cool thing to know. There's a few like probably there would be like some stats from some merchants that would like actually report back to the community and tell people how much people are replacing the transactions, if they are doing such a thing, how do they do it? Is there are problems that like honest problems, not like dishonest, like malicious acts that could arise from these things, like probably a user just changes the fee, so their transaction would be confirmed sooner, but the text ID just changes, and now this messes a few things on the merchant side. And then I would love to learn more about these things, and I think this discussion would be great to learn about these kind of things. Yeah. So
This topic is already closed, isn't it? Because now it is assumed that all transactions are replaceable.
well, yeah, it's been many years that it is
Yeah,
assumed that transactions are replaceable, but it was not the like the it was not the norm for the whole
mhm,
network. But now it's the norm. This is
right.
what it discusses. Like at least like 30% of the nodes on the network are running a node that does relay such transaction. Back in the day, it was not this the case. So it was like if somebody wanted to do such a thing, it wasn't that easy for them. It wasn't just like clicking on it on their software and just replacing the transaction. It needed a little bit of dishonesty and malicious acts to be utilized, such thing. But now it's like anybody could do that. So probably merchants shouldn't accept zero confirmation transactions anymore and replace the whole thing with probably lightning payments. So that's also another thing that's being discussed in this topic.
And that is not the only risk of accepting Zero-Conf. It is really not wise to accept Zero-Conf uh, because other than transactions being replaceable by fee, the other thing that can happen is a reorg in the network, and maybe that transaction does not get mined.
Well, that's a risk that the merchants probably are willing to take because
Yeah, because
it's
if you
not
are,
that it's
Mhm.
not that common. It's probably once a month or twice a month, and that's like few low volume, low amount transactions. So I don't think it would matter as much.
Mhm. The problem would arise that if they accept it and then the price changes, it gets reorged, doesn't get mined, fee goes up, and then the price changes so much and they cannot do their cover their fiat expenses. These scenarios is very unlikely, but they can happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
other
another
things do
topic
you? Mhm.
is this one: CTV CSFS, check template verify, check signature from stack, and the plus between them. So what does the plus stand for? Nothing. It's just CTV and CSFS. So there was up CTV back in the day, and then there was check signature from stack, and now people are suggesting to enable these two together because it kind of has like the best of both worlds for enabling covenants with a soft fork on Bitcoin and the future. CTV was not capable enough for some use cases. So people were opposing to it, but there were a lot of people actually agreeing that CTV is good enough because it doesn't do much harm, and it's like kind of reviewed more, and it is like upgraded on testnets and signets and others, and it's possible to use it and test it and like develop on it. So it was like it is like CTV is the probably is the most reviewed and the most ready upcode or proposal for upgrading to Bitcoin for covenants. But then it was not enough for so many other use cases, like use cases related to improving Lightning UX, which is a very important topic in my opinion. Like, if we want to do something on Bitcoin, it should somehow enable some adoption and scalability features in it all too. So it shouldn't be only about like doing security alone. Like CTV enables like some security features, like I don't know, some limited vault functionalities, but then it doesn't like do much for scalability. It doesn't do much for probably privacy. It doesn't do much for layer twos. So combined with check signature from stack, which is also a very simple, or at least that's what they say. I'm not very entirely sure about these things. So check signature from stack is also a very simple concept. It's a very simple tech that could be added to CTV. And the combination of these two would give us the best of both worlds, because now CTV is kind of on steroids, and now you could have few more functionalities and more features that and more, and it would enable more layer 2 stuff. So it would enable or make arc possible. Actually, it would make a few stuff like probably some methods of roll ups and layer 2s, and like few methods of like zero knowledge stuff uh, become possible on the Bitcoin network. So that would also make the UX for Lightning way better. Not only Lightning, as I mentioned, Arc too. So it looks like a very good combination to have at the same time, without having to go through all sorts of like complicated stuff that could be achieved, complicated and untested, and also unreviewed things that could happen with things like upcat and others. So this looks like it looks like that we have some kind of a general consensus right now on this. Like, this is not set in stone, definitely, and it could change in the future. But now I think this is the most that we came to an agreement in the Bitcoin community on some kind of a stack of like technologies to be enabled for covenants. So it's good to have this step. So CTV, CSFS, and the post is about like, can we reach consensus on a first step toward covenants? So I don't think it's a very huge topic that is like way over my head. So I'm not gonna go into all the details about it, but it's like cool. So to know that there's such a topic is like going on, and the last posts were about like 8 days ago here, and there's all sorts of people contributing here: Moon Settler, Harding, Instagibbs, Aryard. There's Rob Hamilton, James O'Brien, I think, Antoine, and all sorts of people here from different projects. So that's
Anton
cool to
P
see.
must be Anton Ponsan, yeah. So
Yeah.
eventually, maybe covenants are coming, and it's coming soon, maybe in the next 10 years, yeah.
In the next 10 years. That's good actually. Yeah. That's actually that could be true. Yeah, so even if we upgrade governance in the next 2 or 3 years, we may not be able to leverage the full to the full extent, their functionalities to the full extent in probably in the next 5, 6, 7 years or so.
That's
So
totally
it's
realistic because even with Taproot, not all the potentials are realized. It is with Taproot, the sexiest thing was that you are going to be able to do multi-sigs or open lightning channels without revealing that it is a multi-sig or stuff. But this was, as you once mentioned, it is music too, and it's not widely adopted yet. And I do not know of a wallet that helps you do that. So there is still a lot on even Taproot that you can make use of.
yeah, I think Nunchuck does it, but I'm not entirely sure.
Mm.
So and it's like kind of new. They just did this, so
Right. Do you have any other topics to go delve into?
well, we could go on forever because there's a lot of discussions here, but yeah, I think it's been a whole hour we're talking, so we
Awesome. And
should
we covered
probably.
good stuff. For Up Return, go to the previous episode that I had with Zia. The title is also also indicates that it is about Up Return controversy. Today we discussed BIP30 and what the future of covenants going to be, what combination we are going to use, and RBF. And that is also a very practical thing to know, even for everyday users of Bitcoin. Learn about RBF, what it can be used for. That's very useful. Thank you,
Yeah, don't
Zia.
forget test nets too.
Yeah. Testnets. Though not that easy to use them. In the beginning, it was easier because there was a lower number of choices. I wanted to go back and use testnet with the coins that I previously had and with the software that I previously used, which was Sparrow, and I was totally lost. So, but yeah, if you want to really test things without risking real money, there are faucets that you can get testnet money from. And as you saw, transaction fees are zero, even if you have 1,000 sats in testnets. In testnet is going to do the job for you. Thank you, Zia. A huge thank you to everyone who's been with us and is going to listen to this episode in the future. We are going to have more of such episodes soon.